Hi, and welcome to Preview. My name is Giampapa. Preview.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, cue guy.
Hello and welcome to Preview. Gypsy is considered to be one of the great American musicals. It was originally written for Ethel Merman, with a book by Arthur Lawrence, music by Julie Stein, and lyrics by a young Stephen Sondheim. Gypsy became an instant hit. The story was taken from memoirs of burlesque queen Gypsy Rose Lee, as it tells the story of a domineering stage mother determined to make stars of her two young daughters. The role of Rose, as presented at the Lyric stage here in Boston, is portrayed by Lee Barrett, who commands the attention of her audience. Over the years, several actors have taken on this role, some comfortably and some not as strong as that played by Miss Barrett. I believe her role is on a level with Ethel Merman. Miss Barrett has 2 Best Actor Ernie and 2 Best Actor Norton Awards to her name. The cast in this production is excellent. The 2 daughters are played by Kara Troilo as Baby June and Louise by Kirsten Salpini. Herbie is played by Steve Barkheimer. Outstanding in a smaller role is Boston's favorite Kathy St. George, who takes on the dual role of Cratchit and the hilarious Mazeppa, the trumpet-blowing burlesque queen. Miss St. George always pleases. Rachel Bertone, who has served as choreographer to Lyric many times, now makes her directorial debut with Gypsy, and music director Dan Rodriguez returns to Lyric to conduct the orchestra. Applause to both of them. The Lyric Stage Company was founded in 1974 and continues to be a first-rate theater in Boston. Gypsy continues the tradition and is not to be missed. Well, Men in Boats, the Speakeasy Stage Company, opened its 27th season with a play authored by Jacqueline Backhaus. It's actually a comic story dealing with a group of men at an expedition that took place in 1869 on the Colorado River. In writing the story of this true adventure, Miss Backhaus insisted that all the actors in this play be female. She stipulated that while the characters in this play were historically cisgender, white males, the cast should be made up entirely of people who are not. In agreeing to this, director Don Simmons said she was focused on the author's intentions and the opportunity they provide to give a different group of people a way into telling this particular story in American history. There are 9 females and 1 transgender in this play. The depiction of the 3 boats is suggested not by actual boats, but by the use of wooden planks forming the edge of the boats. Clever indeed. On my last program, director Don Simmons and actor Mal Malmy appeared and spoke of the work in putting this production together. The entire cast is convincing, and in the 100 minutes it took to present this story, the audience has been treated to an unusual play, one that tells the actual and historical facts of an incident that took place in the American West. The all-female design team includes Jenna McFarland doing the scenic design, Rachel Padua-Schufelt creating the costumes, Daisy Long lighting the set, and Elizabeth Cahill checking the sound. Men on Boats is enjoying its Boston premiere and will be at the Speakeasy Stage Company at the Calderwood Pavilion until October 7th. My recommendation is that you don't miss this unusual story. You will not be disappointed. Well, I'm really delighted to have this particular man as my guest today. He's the owner of the North Shore Music Theater and the Theater by the Sea down in Rhode Island, and his name is Bill Hanney. And welcome to the show, Bill.
Thank you, Guy. Pleasure
This has
to
been
be
a long
here.
time coming.
I'm so happy I've been invited to do your show.
Well, it's more than an invitation.
Thanks.
We demand that you
That's
come
exactly
on.
it. Do it or that's it, you know?
You are one terrific guy.
Thanks
I mean,
for
we're
saying
sitting
that.
here talking about different things that we know and we don't know, but I find a closeness to you. For some reason, you're very easy to talk to.
Oh, I try to be that way. That's my general personality, which I think is a good thing.
Well, you know, I talk to people that go to the North Shore Music Theater, and they always they talk about the particular musical or play or whatever, but they also talk about Bill Hanney, and what a wonderful guy he is.
And you know, it's so funny because I spent a lot of time in, and they were so happy when I resurrected the theater and
Yes,
took it out
yeah.
of bankruptcy. So I'm constantly being approached by people in my lobby, and they are really kind of stunned that I actually will stand there and talk to them. And you get so much out of a person when they talk to you. They tell you what they like, which is great, and they tell you what they don't like, which is important because the like we like to do, but the don't like we can fix.
Right.
That's important.
That's very important.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you listen to the audience.
You have to.
And you have to. Well, you bought the theater when, in 2010?
2010, roughly February. I kind of put it under agreement in October the year before and purchased it. Actually passed papers February 2010. And then we opened with Gypsy in July of that year.
Okay. And who was... did you take the gentleman, I can't remember his name, that ran the...
K Playhouse.
K Playhouse.
Yeah, Evans Hale.
Evans.
Yes.
I knew Evans because I had talked with him several times. We used to journey down to Dennis in the summer to see his plays.
Okay.
But he worked for you for what, about a year?
1 year.
So?
1 year. I needed some help to get the theater off the ground because it was just a big. Because when I bought the theater, I did a number of things besides putting the show on. We reopened the restaurant and I renovated the theater. And in that amount of time to produce a show, renovate a theater, open a restaurant, and we did an extensive renovation because one thing I had to do is make a commitment because people, when the theater went bankrupt before me, people lost their money. They never got their shows, and they lost their money. So I had to basically say to people, I'm not here to take your money and run. I'm invested in this theater, so we did the entire lobby, the bathrooms, the grounds, really extensive renovation to show people we're here, hopefully if they buy tickets for the long run. And that's what I believe they actually, they believe me. And the first 2 or 3 years was a struggle. But now I think it's been 8 seasons and we're doing terrific.
Yeah, you're really up there.
It really is. The theater has just turned around. I remember the first year I was there, I looked, and it's a big room, by the way, 1,500 seats in the round. You can't hide lack of audience. when you see 300 or 400 people in that huge room, it is not good. Now it's hard to see 100 empty seats. And that's pretty amazing because not many rooms are 1,500 seats.
Now, do you remember the Cohasset Music Theater?
Yes, after the South Shore Music. Yep.
How large was that?
That's I think about 1,800 because that's a sister theater to the Melody Tent, which I think is 22, 22 or the reverse. But they're bigger than us. We used to be 1,800, I'm told, but they had a fire in 2005 and they went reseated the whole theater. A lot of handicap addition to it, and they made the seats more comfortable. So they lost 300 seats, which doesn't affect me in Broadway. It affects me in concerts because you need a lot of seats for a Paul Anka, a Tony Bennett, which are things we also do.
Well, you're doing musicals up there.
The most important thing in that theater that it's been, and I didn't create this, they did way back when. It's a Broadway musical theater, and we've carried on that tradition. I do 6 musicals a year. One of the 6 is always A Christmas Carol, which has been there for 27 years, I think.
That's a tradition.
Absolutely, and I would be run out of town if I didn't do that show. Absolutely, without a doubt.
Since 1989, more than 1 million New Englanders have come to Bill Hanney's North Shore Music Theater to see A Christmas Carol, live on stage, playing from December 8th through December 23rd only. For tickets, log on to nsmt.org.
Well, right now you're doing Evita. That's opening on the 27th.
Absolutely, and I'm going to tell you, I have been able to assemble an amazing cast in this show. Evita's a tough show to cast. It really is, because you've got specific people that do those roles, especially Ava. I think we nailed it. One of my passions is casting, and on this show, again, when it opens, the proof will be in the pudding, but I think it's going to be terrific.
Who did you cast for Evita?
A wonderful gal, Brianna Carlson Goodman, and she is really terrific. And again, the way I cast a show is I picked the best person for the part, and
that's the way it should be.
Absolutely should be. A lot of people. We see thousands of people in that week in New York. It takes 4 days to cast these shows, and we besides Brianna, we've got an amazing cast, all the way from the principals to the ensemble. Che is played by Konstantin Maroulis, who you know from American Idol, and Tony nominee for Rock of Ages. Did a tour of Jekyll and Hyde not long ago. Fantastic. There's
some controversy. The Don O'Coin in the Boston Globe did an article about 2 weeks ago, which disturbed me because.
You're right, and it was. It actually took me off guard because I was, and Don didn't do this. We were being accused of I think what they call whitewashing is what they called it, and I take much offense to that. And I actually started to. I've done a couple of articles and radio shows about this because I don't practice that way. I do what I call colorblind casting, unless it's a specific show. If it's Dreamgirls or something like that, and they need obviously an African American to play the part of an African American. Evita didn't need that. Evita didn't need Latino people in the show. We have a bunch of them in there. We're not even allowed to ask what your ethnicity is, your religion, or your age.
Exactly.
But it's funny, after this whole controversy came up, the actors would come to us, and by the way, I know my last name is Smith, but I'm Latino, you know, my parents are, and she married a non-Latino. And I said, you know, if these people just did their research, or maybe just gave me a call, a lot of stuff would have gone away. But it's gone away because at the end of the day, we've proved that, no, we do diverse casting. That's all there is to it. Let's move on, because I have a great cast for Evita.
Has anything happened after that article came out?
Pretty much no. After I got to do the stories and I said what I do, it was like there's no argument there. At that point, we can't pick it, because guess what? He's got Latino people in the show. It wasn't on purpose. It was the best of the people that came in the show, and that's the end of the story.
Period. That's
Period.
it. Okay.
And it works. And I said, what? I said, first of all, I've had so many diverse people in my shows. I've had African American Cogsworth in Beauty and the Beast. I had a little person doing LeFou at Theater by the Sea. I had an Asian guest on. I have, you know, so it's ridiculous to even say something like that. But they did. I answered it, and we moved on.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that's
absolutely
that's put to bed. Okay, we have some scenes from Evita, and we'd like to show that to our audience right now.
Instead of ideas or prima donna's rage, instead of help, we were given a crowd. She didn't say much, but she said it loud. And who am I who dares to keep his head held high while millions weep? Why the exception to the rule? Opportunist, traitor, fool, or just a man who grew and saw from 17 to 24. His country bled, crucified. She's not the only one who died. On this night of 1,000 stars, let me take you to heaven's door, where the music of love's guitars plays forever. Lying adored, so young, the instant queen, a rich, beautiful thing of all the talents, a cross between a fantasy of the bedroom and a saint.
Evita. The Tony Award-winning musical is back in a thrilling production at Bill Hanney's North Shore Music Theater from September 26th through October 8th. For tickets, log on to nsmt.org.
You know, I still get goosebumps when I see Evita, especially when she does "Don't Cry for
Oh
Me,
my God,
Argentina."
that is a showstopper, as they say.
It's more than a showstopper.
Oh yeah, and that's why when I say pick somebody like Brianna, you have to really
Yes.
be amazing
Yeah.
talent to pull that off right. And then here's the most important part: 8 times a week. 8 times a week.
That's fabulous.
To do that,
Fabulous to do that.
I couldn't do it because I can't sing.
Is this the first time you've done Evita?
Yes, yes.
Okay, you hadn't done it before.
I have. We did it at Theater by the Sea way back when. I think it was our 3rd year. So I'm wrong. We did Evita back when, and it was a terrific Theater by the Sea production of Evita.
Okay.
This, I always tell people, maybe we have Mamma Mia next year. So maybe you've seen Mamma Mia 1 billion times, but you've never seen Mamma Mia in the round. And that's important to know.
Different.
It takes on a whole different way of seeing a show because the audience is now immersed in the show. They're part of the show.
Right.
Because when we do in the round, as you know, you've seen shows, they're
Oh,
up
yeah.
and down the aisle. Sometimes they participate with the audience, and I think people love that. And I know that, as I said, you can see the show a million times, but when you see it around, it is a different show.
It's a different show.
Absolutely.
I know. I've witnessed that in Theater in the Round.
It's the best.
Yeah.
It's the
Your
best.
theater in Rhode Island, is that a theater in the round?
No, it's Proscenium Theater. It is
Okay.
it is 80-something years old.
Really?
Absolutely, it's a charming theater. You have to go sometime. It's called Theater by the Sea, and it's by the sea.
Mm-hmm.
It's got the most amazing grounds you've ever walked through. They're award-winning grounds that I was lucky enough to have inherited and get to keep and keep and restore and make better. And it's beautiful. It's a really terrific restaurant there, and a 500-seat, really iconic theater. Many famous people have been through the theater. Many people have played that theater. Marlon Brando, Marlene Dietrich, Mae West. Matter of fact, the cottage that I stay in is the Mae West cottage. She used to stay in that cottage, and I just love the history of just being in there. We've done it since then, but what I do there most importantly is I pay attention to the history of what this whole place is. So it's just restored. Not remodeled, you know. It's not upgrade. It's just
Right.
we do the things. We just added air conditioning 2 years ago. It was roughly 80 years without air conditioning, and because nobody could figure out how to air condition it. Because you don't want to drywall a barn theater.
Right, yeah.
You can't. It just ruins all the atmosphere. So we figured out a way, and I'm telling you, people love it. And people aren't passing out anymore in the 85, 90-degree summer matinee days with a full house. Surprised we never lost anybody, but we didn't. Now we have AC, and it's actually made a big difference in our sales also.
You talk about the beauty of the theater and the grounds and so forth. I noticed the last time I was up at North Shore, I noticed I'm a great gardener, and I see all the flowers that you have. And I said,
Yes.
this guy's fabulous.
No, it's what I got to tell you something. It's one of the
really keep the grounds
I
up.
love that. I've got a great team that does that. And my first several years, I was on top of, like you read about, this plant, that plant, that plant, this plant. And then finally, my facilities director, Heather, she said 3 years ago, she said, can I give this a shot? And if you don't like it, we'll fix it, you know? And I gave her a shot, and I said, wow, better than I could have done. I said, you got it. I can step away from doing this,
Yes.
Heather, and you can do it now. And I think this year, she's done the best I've seen yet, and that's saying a lot. It just looks so fantastic this year, and that's what these. When you go to a theater, I know most theaters like Boston and New York, you're the grounds are the sidewalk, you know.
Exactly.
We get to
in
have
the
special
city.
things. We have to have special things that we get to play with. We have a great restaurant on the hill at North Shore, Backstage Bistro, which is decorated with all. When I bought the theater, there was a warehouse full of amazing props and sets and scenery, all this great stuff. So I took bunches of pieces of this stuff and I decorated the restaurant with the history of the North Shore Music Theater. And I've been able to add the signs and stuff that are built for the shows or certain props. There was a camera from Memphis. The Broadway show was born at North Shore, and the cameras that they used in the original production at North Shore we have in the restaurant. It's just so much fun stuff and I love when I sit there and have dinner. I just look around and go, wow, some really great stuff.
That must be great satisfaction.
It really is.
It really, truly
well,
is.
especially when the theaters, Theater by the Sea, I saved after, it was 5 years closed. And now we do a 98% season capacity. Not many theaters can boast 98% season capacity.
That's
just
a good
show.
record.
We
Yeah.
have shows sometimes at Theater by the Sea where literally last week, I don't care who you know, including me, you don't get a seat because they're gone. I one time gave up my 2 seats. 2 people in the lobby that were begging Vinny, my boxer manager, can we sit on the roof? Can we sit anywhere? And I had 2 seats. I was going to watch the show. I said, Vinny, sell them those seats. I'll watch it from the stairs, you know? And I did, because I had seen it already, but let these 2 people experience it, and then they'll hopefully become great customers for the future. That's how it should work. Build an audience.
You're a great salesman.
Well, you know what?
You really
it's
are.
easy to sell good stuff.
You have to be, yeah.
But it's easy to sell. When you have good stuff, it's easy to sell it. And it really is. And as long as we keep doing really good productions of amazing written shows, that's what I want to do. Until they stop or we stop, I'm going to keep doing it.
Well, you got a great show coming up after Evita. It's called
Absolutely.
42nd Street.
42nd Street is a show I've never done.
Oh, really?
I've never done 42nd Street. I've loved it since I saw
You're gonna
it
love
several
it.
times. And in the round, again, I'll go back to the round. It's going to be spectacular in the round. It will really be something that people will not believe. I promise them that. I've already cast a show. The cast is absolutely fantastic. The only one I have not cast yet is Dorothy Brock, which is one of the leading ladies in the show. Because I'm trying to find somebody that will do a great job, that possibly has a name that people will recognize. I've gotten away from people with names because I think our shows stand on their own. But when you have a certain role for a certain kind of actress, it's good to look for somebody that people go, oh my God, from the TV shows or from whatever. And if
They
we
love
don't,
that.
they love
that.
Well, who wouldn't,
Yeah.
right? But if we don't get lucky to do that, we will have somebody amazing doing that role, as well as all the other ones that we've already cast in the show. And again, I keep saying this, but come and see a show. You're going to love it. You really will love our shows. And again, in the round,
It'll be a little different.
it'll be different.
Yeah. We have a clip of that, and I think we'd like to show that. Right
I
now.
think you do, yes.
Can we?
Come on along and listen to The Lullaby of Broadway when Bill Hanney's North Shore Music Theater presents 42nd Street on stage from October 31st through November 12th. For tickets, log on to nsmt.org.
How are you going to treat that opening with the? In a regular theater, the curtain just goes up
The
to their
dancing
knees.
feet. Wait till you see this. We actually, I'll give the secret away because we just did it in Young Frankenstein. I don't think it's ever been done before in a round theater, but in Young Frankenstein, as you will also in 42nd Street, the opening of Young Frankenstein, we have a huge round curtain. So when you walk into the room, all you see is a round, enormous curtain. And in Frankenstein, we had these projections of the like castles and the logo from Young Frankenstein.
Yeah.
And our plan for 42nd Street is, as the show, that particular scene is, this round curtain will just rise up to the point where you see all the dancing feet. It's going to be spectacular.
That is amazing.
It's going to be spectacular. I promise you that.
I never thought that you could do something
No,
like that.
we had to. Well, in the round, you have to get very creative.
Yes,
I did Saigon a few years ago. And it's like, where do you hide the helicopter?
Yeah.
Where do you hide the
Right.
helicopter? I had people come in and they looked and they looked everywhere. Where's the helicopter? I go, I'm not telling you, it'll be a surprise. And boy, was it a surprise. You couldn't tell where this helicopter was until it actually came out. A full size, we had to make it, of course, out of materials, but a helicopter that had pilots in it and doors where you know the show, they all load into the helicopter, and it came right down from a section of the theater, and it was a chilling effect just to watch it happen.
That must have been thrilling.
It absolutely
just the noise of the engine of a helicopter.
And I added something to this, and so people think I'm crazy. My production team think I'm crazy, and they will tell me this when they see the show also. What I did for that is we installed a ton of fans hidden in the room. So when that helicopter came over, the sound did
breeze,
this, and the wind was doing this, and your hair did this.
It's
It
almost
felt
like you were
that
right there.
helicopter was coming right over you. It was unbelievable to this day. I have some shows that I will have a hard time topping. That's one of them. That is one of the shows that is, I have my favorites just because it just went above and beyond.
Yeah.
That Les Mis was probably a show that I'll never top in my lifetime. It was that terrific. But I keep trying to do it, but it's a good thing to try to reach for.
I don't know if anybody else that ever did anything like that. I mean, I've seen Miss Saigon on the regular theaters.
I just saw
it was thrilling, but
I
it's
just saw
nothing
somebody
like
else
that.
do it. I went to see Saigon in New York 2 or 3 weeks ago. Great production, and they stole my idea.
No kidding.
I'm not, and this show hadn't opened. This show
Yeah.
opened 2 years after I did my show, but they stole my idea because the helicopter came over and the wind started happening. But that's okay. It's flattering to have somebody steal my ideas.
But you know, people go out, when they leave the theater, they go home talking about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And it stays with them.
I get so many people come out, and this is the best part. They'll come out, and I usually am in the back of the room as they all exit, and they say, "This is the best one yet." And I said, "Well, you said that last time." She goes, "I know. We said it the time before, but it really is the best one yet." I go, "At some point, you got to say to me, not as good as the last one, you know?" And I'll be okay with that.
Sounds like my friend Sheila Barth, who
Oh,
will say things
Sheila.
like that to me about how
Sheila,
terrific the show is.
She's one of my favorite reviewers.
She
honest
really
to God.
is,
She
yeah.
really is. And she tells it like it is, by the way.
And she's very honest.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I always make sure if it passes the Sheila test, we know it's a good show.
I'm going to tell her you said that.
Please do. Send her this tape, you know.
She'll know that.
But it's the truth.
It
It's
is,
the truth.
yeah. Well, now, to round off the season, at Christmas time, you're doing something you do every year.
Every year, this theater's had a tradition. I don't know if it's 27 or 28 years. It's a Christmas Carol. It's a
Right.
traditional Christmas Carol. It's the biggest show we do at the theater. Pyrotechnics, flying, things you can't even imagine happening on the stage. And David Coffey, who is the star of the show, has been doing it, I believe, 25. This might be his 26th year. He is Scrooge. He is absolutely, when you see this guy, you'll say this is what Dickens would have picked as the actor and the look of Scrooge. He's that good. And I quite often say to him in the audience, when he decides to retire, we may have to retire this show.
Oh, my.
Because I don't know who else I would hire that
Nobody
would
else
be
could
as
do
good
it.
as David Coffey.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean that so sincerely. And I'll send him this tape because he better not retire.
My word. Doing that show every single year?
It's so funny. When I first took the theater over, they said, you can't repeat a Broadway show for at least 10 years. I said, well, then why do we have this Christmas Carol every single year? And they said something very smart to me because I'm dumb sometimes. They go, well, it's tradition. Do you ever watch a certain TV show every year? I watch It's a Wonderful Life every year. She goes, that's it. Same thing. And I go, I get it. And it's the truth. That show, you can't get a ticket to that show. I'm not lying to you.
Really?
We do mostly, we call them TYA performances, theater for young audiences,
Yes,
at 10
yeah.
o'clock. They bust them in from all over New England to see this, and they sell out completely. So we're left with a handful of weekend shows for the general public, matinees and Friday, Saturdays. And that's why you can't get a ticket, because they do sell so fast,
Yeah.
because they're limited performances. But that show runs 3 weeks, which is a lot of performances, but people don't realize that because it's mostly the TYAs and then the matinees and then the evenings. But it does terrific. It's really, if you haven't seen it, please see it. It's worth it.
You are such a lover of theater.
You have no idea. You have no idea.
Well, I can see it in your face. I mean, when you talk.
You can't hide this. You
No,
can't
you
hide
can't
this
hide
at all.
that,
No.
no.
And my favorite thing and the hardest thing I do is pick the season. I tell my audience, I have to pick shows that you are going to like next year.
Okay, Bill Hanney, we're running out of time.
I figured that.
But I want you to come back.
Would you let me come back?
You're going to come back many times.
Love it.
Okay.
Love it.
Thanks so
Thank
much for
you,
being
guys.
on our show
Appreciate
today.
it. Appreciate
It's
it.
wonderful. Well, that's our show for this time. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it immensely. Thanks for watching Preview. See you next time.